Hey there, it's Simon Hurley from Inklips and welcome to another video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Now today I'm going to be sharing how to create a couple different variations of some glitter backgrounds for your cards that look super stunning and really catch your eye. And I'll also share how to create those no mess so that when your recipient pulls the cards out, none of the glitter gets all over the place, and I'll also show you how to contain some of the mess as you're creating with the fine glitters. Now to make sure the glitter is nice and stuck down on all my cards that we're creating today, I'm going to use these Scor-Tapes, which are super strong double-sided adhesives, and they really hold the glitter down nicely, and I definitely recommend that over a liquid adhesive. So for this first card, I'm going to share how to create a full background of glitter with a couple different blended colors in it. Now to do this, I'm going to start off with my Scor-Tape as the adhesive here. So I'm just using the 1-inch size of the tape, but I know you can get it in larger sheets as well, and that can be quite helpful when you're creating backgrounds like this. However, I like to just use the strips of tape because it's useful in other parts of the crafting, and I also just bud this tape up right next to each other, and I can create however big or small of a background that I want to. So for example, I'm only going to cover about 2/3 of this paper here, because I want to make sure I leave room for the image at the top. So once I've added all the tape down, I can then push it down and you kind of have your full sheet of adhesive then. So I'll peel off the backing to where I want to add the glitter first, and then I'm going to start off with this white kind of iridescent color of the Tonic sparkle dust. So I'm going to start by dumping a little bit onto this. Now I'm going to leave kind of a jagged edge at the bottom there where the next color of glitter is going to go, because I want it to blend really nicely into the next color. So after I've added the glitter on, I can tap off the excess, and I'm working over top of a coffee filter here so that any of the excess goes inside of there, and then I can dump the rest of the remnants into the glitter jar back again so I don't waste any here, and there's also not a ton of glitter all over my work surface then. So after I've created that white part, that'll resist the rest of the colors of glitter, so then I can go in with my blue glitter, making kind of a jagged edge at the bottom again, and add it right over top of that white. So then I can tap off the excess color there, add that blue right back into the jar so there's no waste. And then in the middle of this, I'm just going to use my finger here to kind of push that glitter into the adhesive a little bit more. This just kind of helps it to stay stuck there, and that way I can move on to my next color. So then I'll use this royal blue kind of color, and I'm making that jagged edge again to make sure it blends super nicely. And I'll tap off the excess color right there, and then I'll move on to the purple color right at the bottom here. And don't be worried about pouring the glitter right on top of the other colors that have already been down. The glitter shouldn't be sticking to the other parts of the other colors, and you'll get that nice blended background there. Now I'm going to go in with my Teflon bone folder, and I'm going to just kind of go over top of all the glitters here. Now this pushes all the glitter down into that adhesive, and this is a super fine sparkle dust glitter. So when I'm pushing it down into this adhesive, it kind of almost turns a little bit more shiny and sparkly. So you want to make sure not to skip this step, and it almost turns to kind of a velvet texture then. So after I've done that, I'm going to go in with a Swiffer cloth here, the Swiffer cloth you would use to dust your floor down. And I learned this tip from Jennifer McGuire, but they're really super nice to clean up your work surface and wipe all that glitter up that might have gotten down there, and also clean off your piece of cardstock there. So if you do find that some of the colors have overlapped a little, it's usually just because of the static cling, and you can lift it off with the Swiffer dusting cloth. So you'll see me kind of rub it over top here. That just makes sure that there's no glitter over top of anything that I've been working on, and it keeps the colors nice and clean. Now you could just stop there, and since I've used my Teflon bone folder, most of the glitter won't come out, but there's some little flecks that do, and I don't like glitter getting all over the place. So I'm going to mask off the top and bottom area of the white cardstock around that background there. And then I'll go in with my Versamark ink pad, which is a clear sticky ink, and ink up the whole background. And then I can take some clear embossing powder, and I'm just going to cover that whole glitter area with lots of embossing powder there, so that once I heat this all up, it turns nice and clear and magnifies that glitter, so it stays nice and shiny underneath there. And most importantly, it seals everything in super nicely, so none of the glitter will get anywhere when your recipient opens the card, which is super nice. Now as you're heating the powder, you want to just heat it until it turns that nice clear color. You don't want to heat it too much or overheat it, because it could turn brown or kind of dull around those areas, and then it won't really shine with the glitter as much anymore. So I'm just going to heat it enough, and once that background is complete, it looks super nice and shiny with that glitter, and that embossing powder really magnifies the shine. I wish you guys could see it in real life. Now for this next card, I'm going to keep it super simple and show you how to create just a solid background, and we'll mask it later on in the video to kind of create a scene. But here I just covered that whole background with that adhesive, and I'm going to bring out my light blue color here and just sprinkle that over top of the whole thing. Now I'm making sure that I use that coffee filter underneath so it catches all the excess powder, or sorry, glitter here. And I'm just going to dump it all over the background. Now this is super nice in case if you don't have any glitter paper on hand, you could do this and die cut out of it, but I'm just going to leave it as this full background here. And I'm going to go into my Teflon bone folder, and you can really see it change as I go over it. It really presses in that glitter, and I don't know why, but it turns kind of a more shiny, velvety kind of look, and it doesn't make the glitter go all over the place if you touch the card. So after I've done that with my Teflon bone folder, I'm going to wipe it off with that Swiffer dusting cloth again to remove any of the excess. And I'll wipe off my surface again, and those things are just amazing. They get rid of any of the excess. And then I can go into my Versamark pad here again and just do the whole background with that clear sticky ink. And then I'll add my clear embossing powder over top of the whole thing. And this just kind of seals in everything like I said earlier and really magnifies that color. Now you don't need to do it if you don't want to. If you like the little glitter every once in a while kind of falling off, it's not too bad, especially if you use the Teflon bone folder. But I like sealing everything in nicely. And then I can heat this up and that background turns super nice and shiny once you're complete. So this background was quite simple and it's all finished, but I'll share how to finish up the cards in the end of this video, so stay tuned as I build the rest of the scenes. Now for this last card here, it looks a little bit simple with those 3 stripes, but the masking is a little bit difficult, but I find it's really worth it in the end. So I'm using the 3 different sizes of the Scor-Tape that I have. One of them is really skinny, and then I have a medium and a larger 1-inch version. Now they sell even more different sizes than that, so I'll link down to the ones that I used below, but you can search for like 2-inch ones as well. There's a lot of different fun sizes you can create a whole background with. But I'm just doing 3 stripes in the center of my card as kind of a grounding place for some little critters to sit on. So then I'll add this last piece of tape here, and I'm just lining it up with the grid lines on my mat to make sure it's nice and straight on my card. So I'll cut off the excess on the sides there, and then to add the glitter on, I'm just going to pull off the piece of release tape on the background, and then I'll add my glitter onto that one portion where I want it. So that first stripe there. And then I can add it and dump it right into my coffee filter and add it right back into the jar. Now you kind of see it all sticking together here. Now that's just normal. It's just sticking with static onto that background release. So all you need to do is just go in with that Swiffer cloth and remove any of the excess color on there. And I'm also really pressing that glitter into that first stripe there to make sure it doesn't move around. So after I've done that, just making sure the area is nice and cleaned up so I can move on to the next color here. And once that's done, I'm going to move on to the purple. I've removed that release paper in the back, and then I can add this purple color down onto that second stripe there. And you don't need to be worried about getting it on the blue there. It looks like it's on it, but you can just remove it easily with that Swiffer cloth. I tell you, these things come in really good handy. Now the actual cloth is a little bit bigger, but you can cut it down to about 4 different pieces, and I use these to clean glitter or embossing powder as well. So I'm adding on that last color as I removed the release paper, and then I can do the same thing. I'll kind of remove with the Swiffer cloth any of the excess color, and I'll also use my Teflon bone folder to really sink that glitter into the stripes there and make sure that it stays nice and shiny. So once that's done, I'll clean up the whole area and my Teflon bone folder with that Swiffer dusting cloth. This keeps your area super nice and clean, so even since this glitter is super small little particles, it won't start flying everywhere, which is super nice, and it's something that I definitely really like about using these Swiffer cloths. So then here's where it gets a little bit trickier. We have to go back in and mask each portion of the stripes that we did. So I just am doing this once again to make it no mess. But not much glitter comes off if you do use your Teflon bone folder, and really make sure that glitter is nice and stuck down. So I've added that Versamark ink onto that first stripe there, and then I can sprinkle on the clear embossing powder right over top. I'll tap off any of the excess, and then I can heat this up once again, making sure it's nice and shiny, but you don't want to burn it. So after that's all nice and heated with that tape on, I can then peel off the tape, and you have those nice crisp edges of where you've masked it off from the other stripes. So I'm just going to show you how to do this one more time here. I'm just going to add the tape over top of the other two that I've already done, and then I can move it around to this third stripe here, making sure it's nice and lined up there. And then I'll add that clear sticky Versamark ink on, really nice and generously, and then I'll add the clear embossing powder right over top of it, and then I can heat that up once again. Now when that tape hits the other portions that have already been embossed, it might kind of lose its shine just a little bit. So once you've peeled off all the tape and you are done with the background, you might want to go back in and just hit it with your heat tool, each one a little bit more, and that'll bring back the shine if it was lost in with the tape there. So here is that finished background. It's a little bit hard to see on camera with all that glitter and the shine since they're darker colors, but they look really awesome in real life. Now I'm no expert in coloring, but I wanted to share quickly how I created these little critters on the cards. So I used this SugarPea stamp set Eskimo Kisses, which has these fun and adorable little critters in here that are really great for creating some scenes, and also some great little Christmas and holiday sentiments. So I've stamped down all the images in some Copic friendly ink, and I'm just going to go in and color with my Copics just one shade of each color. So usually I try to choose about 3 shades for each color and do lots of shading, but since I want the backgrounds to really stand out on these cards, I wanted these to kind of just finish off the scenes, and I wanted some really quick coloring, so I'm just adding 1 shade of each tone onto each one, and if you want, you can flick a little bit of gray onto the iceberg as well to make that a little bit shaded and not have the whole thing be gray. And then I'm just going to add some color here and there. Now you don't need to use Copics for this, but I find they give a nice smooth blend since we're just using one color, but you could do some fun watercoloring on these to get a similar effect as well. So once these are all colored in, I can then move on to cutting them out with a little bit of a white border or using the die cuts, and then I can finish off by creating all the scenes on the cards. So to finish off this blue glitter background, I'm going to be creating that ice fishing hole and use that little ice fishing penguin. So I'm going to take a white piece of cardstock that's a bit bigger than the glitter paper, and I'll just hand cut a little wavy half circle into the edge of the cardstock. And this will be that little ice fishing hole for the penguin to be fishing in, and we'll use the glitter cardstock to really accent this. So after I've cut that out, I can then shorten down the glitter cardstock a bit. I'm using this Tim Holtz mini guillotine trimmer, and I find this super useful to just keep on my desk to cut down little pieces of cardstock like this. So once that's all cut down, I'm going to add on my little penguin to the front here and kind of complete the scene with the little fisherman. And then on the back, I've added some foam tape, and I'll add my glitter background on there and line it up nicely so that on the front there, it creates that fun little pond. So then I'm going to be adding on some brown Nuvo drops right around the ice fishing hole there as kind of some little stones, and I wanted to add a little bit of texture. I didn't feel like that edge was finished off enough, and this added just the right amount of color and texture onto the edge there. So once that one's complete, for the next card, I'm going to be using my blended glitter background to create kind of an ocean scene with those little penguins on the iceberg. So I'm going to cut down this panel once again using that mini guillotine trimmer, which is super useful to have. And I'm just going to trim off some of the excess on the sides, so I have a nice shorter panel that can go onto the top and the middle of the card there. So to adhere the little penguins onto the card, I added some foam tape onto the back, and I actually adhered the penguins onto the ice block there, so those are 2 separate images. And I'll pop that right on top of the glitter background that we have, so it looks like they're floating on top of the ocean there. So after I've added that there, I'm going to need a sentiment, and I didn't want to stamp it on top of the glitter there since there's embossing powder and it wouldn't really stay. So I'm using some vellum here, and I really like the look of vellum with a sentiment on it. So I stamped the friendship warms the heart sentiment, and I'll use some opaque white embossing powder on top of there after I've stamped it down. And then I can heat this up to get that nice crisp white sentiment. Now you want to be careful with vellum not to burn it and just hit it the right amount. And then once that's done, I'll wrap it around the back of the card there, and that creates that sentiment, and then I can add that onto a craft card base. So that finishes off this card. I just want to quickly add a little bit of embellishments on here with some Nuvo drops. These are the jewel blue drops, and these ones look really awesome to create some little bubbles on your card. Now on this last card, I finished it off with a really simple scene of just a little guy pulling another little penguin on a sled. So I added some foam tape on the back here, and then I'll adhere a little piece of string behind it as well, and then I can rest that right on top of those 3 lines that we created kind of as a scene grounding place. And then I'll add that string in the little guy's hand that's going to be pulling him, and I'll add that on top of the card too as well. And finally, for a little sentiment, I'm going to be doing the same thing with the vellum. I'll do the holiday greeting sentiment and stamp it down in some Versamark ink, and then I'll add my embossing powder on and heat it up nicely so you get a crisp sentiment. And then I'll add that around the back, and I'll add it right onto the card there. Now to finish this off and add a little bit more embellishments like I did in the last 2, I'm going to just use some white Nuvo drops and add it right below each character and kind of spread it out so it's nice and thin, and this just makes it look like they're sledding on some snow there. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. I hope you learned lots. Please make sure to click that blog post and stop over there for much more info and a full supplies list including pictures of all the products. And be sure to click that subscribe button so you'll never miss another video like this one. I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.